to serve as the president of the Multicultural Alliance. I am Adrienne Collins. Thank you. After years of volunteering and participating in MCA programming, I am very fortunate to stand in this position. Before I go on any further, though, I do have to thank Dr. Cheryl Kimberling for her mentorship and illumination as I have transitioned into this new role. Cheryl's contributions to the MCA will live on for years to come, and we thank her for her 18 years of dedicated service and outstanding relationship development throughout our community. Her continued support was demonstrated most recently at the January Sharing Our Faith Traditions retreat, where she convened and facilitated seminary students from across the country. She was unable to attend this evening, but we would like everyone to share our heartfelt gratitude for her years of service. Before I bring our presiding chair to the stage, I would like to remind you of the silent auction that will remain open until 8:30, so make sure you stop by the silent auction table, and the opportunity to get involved. There are cards on your table, okay? And there's a QR code on the back of your program to help facilitate this process. Your participation allows our programming to continue year after year. We appreciate your participation and support. And at this time, I would like to welcome our presiding chair of the Multicultural Alliance, Joanne Jensen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us. It's been an honor to serve on the MCA board, and I'd like to start out this evening by taking a moment to recognize our board members, past and present. So if you are a current board member, please stand. Thank you. If you are a past board member of the NC, CJ, and MCA, please stand. I really have 2015 vision at a distance, and I need these for up close. So I would like to take a moment to thank all of our table sponsors for this evening. It is with their support that we've had such a wonderful, wonderful event. And of course, Adrienne, and thanking Cheryl that MCA has continued beautifully and wonderfully. So thank you very much. We'd also like to recognize the honorees from previous years who are with us tonight. And so if you would, when I call your name, please stand, remain standing, and if the audience could hold the applause until I'm at the end of the list. So our past award honorees who are here with us from 2011, Rabbi Ralph Mecklenburger. Oh, give me a second. 2015, Mr. Larry Anfin. 2016, Mr. Marvin Blum. And 2017, Dr. Bashir Ahmed and Robert Fernandez. Okay, now. This is going to be, we've lost some giants in our community in the last year since our last award dinner, and I'd like to take a moment to recognize those honorees who have transitioned and may not be with us in person, but will always be with the MCA in spirit. Rosalind Rosenthal, Coach Robert Hughes, Joan True, and Judge Clifford Davis. We will always remember them. The ultimate goal of MCA is to achieve a society in which the ideals of compassion, equity, and justice have become the standard of all relationships. And our 2 award recipients tonight are the embodiment of this goal. Without further ado, I'd like to ask Fernando Costa to come forward and present our Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank you, Joanne. Estes Tucker was born in Fort Worth, Texas, in the Lake Como neighborhood, at a time when our society was sharply segregated. He grew up in Fort Worth during a time when invisible walls separated black neighborhoods from white neighborhoods. And when for more than 20 years, a physical wall separated Lake Como from Ridgely. A wall with barbed wire across the top. Yet despite that experience, or perhaps because of it, Estes came to appreciate folks from all different backgrounds and learn how to bring them together to serve the common good. Estes Tucker's had a long and distinguished career in which he's had the opportunity to play many different roles. But all of his work activities, in one way or another, have revolved around helping people. Most notably, perhaps, Estes has been instrumental in promoting mutual understanding and reconciliation in troubled places around the world, including the state of Mississippi, which he calls his second home, and Northern Ireland, and South Africa. And yet I think his most impactful work has been right here in his hometown of Fort Worth. Where, as the longtime chair of the Fort Worth Human Relations Commission, as chair or member of countless boards, commissions, committees, task forces, Estes has led us through crisis after crisis in our community. For example, by advancing equal rights legislation after the Rainbow Lounge incident, by staffing the task force on race and culture after the Jacqueline Craig incident, by facilitating the Coalition on Unity and Justice and helping to keep the peace in Fort Worth after the killing of Tatiana Jefferson. I could cite many other examples, but I want you to hear from Estes himself. Today, Fort Worth is a different place from the city in which Estes grew up. It's much bigger. It's much more diverse. It's more welcoming. It's more prosperous. And many individuals, some famous, some in this room, most largely unknown, deserve credit for that progress, but none has done more to exemplify the values of the Multicultural Alliance than Honorary Esdras Tucker. Please join me in congratulating Esdras as recipient of the 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award. Mr. Esdras Tucker.
If you're going to have someone tell your story, I trust you have a friend like Fernando Costa that can tell it with such passion and inspiration that even the person he's talking about is inspired. Thank you, my friend. In reverence to God and love and gratitude to my family and friends, the Lake Como community and the city that I have called home all of my life, I am deeply grateful, humbled, and honored to be the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award, Multicultural Alliance. And congratulations to my friend Andy Taft for the recipient of the Multicultural Alliance Annual Award. Well deserved. Now, I was going to say that my family and the Lake Como community are here tonight mostly in spirit, and then I start looking around. And I saw Melvin Bennett, a fellow Comoite class of 72 from the first grade throughout. And his wife, Jenna, who's a niece of one of my lifelong best friends, Merville Johnson. And the president of the NAC is here, Miss Dina Ashton. So Como was in the house, and I said, well, family, and then someone who's always been like family to me because of our work together. I'm going to get into trouble because I'm calling names. But Cindy Johnson and I have worked all over the country, and certainly all over Texas and Fort Worth, behalf of Courage and Renewal, and a lot of different forms and expressions. And it was Cindy that reminded me that my people are really here. And I started looking around and said, oh, and I know I can't name you now because I really will get into trouble, but I saw fellow Rotarians here. I saw the phenomenal leaders from Bright Divinity School here. I saw some individuals from Arts Fort Worth here. And so the more that I looked around, my people are here. And our challenge is to look around and dare discover our people, dare discover identity beyond those labels that they use to divide and confuse us, and recognize that we are one another's people if we look around, if we look up. I'm going to be brief, and I know some of you are going to snicker at that. But I must say, kinder to what Abraham Lincoln said, because this rings true for me, and that is that all that I am and all that I ever hoped to be, I owe to my angel of a mother. I'm a mother's son. And the reason I do what I do is because I want to see what I love and what I love in the beauty and grace and hospitality of my mother and others. And my mother has been gone for a while. And so the way I find my energy and my tenacity and strength and whatever it is, I find it by treating others and advocating for others as I would my mother. That's a high standard. That's a high standard. And do I fail sometimes? Yes. Let's see. Probably call a few names out that you have encouraged me to fail. But I persevered. So, family, it really is the bedrock. And what I learned as a young child, what I learned early in the ministry, and why I so greatly appreciate my friends and leaders at Bright Divinity, and that our source of salvation, if you say that, our source of redemption, our source of progress is when we dare to make each other our family. And I know we have some rough families that we don't want to model after. I know because you told me. But the ideals of family, right? Not about perfection, but the ideals of family is what we should aspire to for one another in our community, in our city, in our state, in our nation, in our world, so that no label, no identity can cause us to diminish another human being. No exception to that. And so I really I want to thank the board and staff and leaders and members and volunteers of the Multicultural Alliance for daring to promote inclusion and diversity and understanding while working toward eliminating bias and bigotry and oppression in our community. I recognize that most of those words are being banned now, but not from your website and not from your mission statement and not from your awards dinner. We have to have the courage and the tenacity and the determination to look beyond the kind of division that is destroying people all over the world, and be big enough, because we can do better and we can be better. Now, I've always been a fan of cowboys. And that sounds political. But I've always been a fan of cowboys, from football to Yellowstone. But my heroes have always been teachers. And it's because of teachers that we are where we are today. Not only the formal teachers in schools, which are phenomenal, but the teachers in our home, the parents, the older siblings, the neighbors, the coaches, the pastors. I stand on the shoulders of giants. And so let me wrap this up. I just really wanted to say that we cannot afford to just talk about our cherished values. If all we do is talk about values of inclusion and equity and justice, then we are on the road to hypocrisy. Our values have to be lived, not mimicking what someone else is doing, but live from your heart. And it will be imperfect, but that's the journey. That's the challenge. To make our cherished values something we attend to on a daily basis. And we can't advance our values by banning them, redefining them, or lying about them. We have to embrace them. And so what I try to say often within this work, and I head up a firm called DEI Consultants, so it's not a lot of hiding spaces for me. Yeah. But it's not only about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but DEI is about dignity, empathy, and integrity. That's our way forward. And as I take my seat, I'm just reminded of my grandmother, Clara Taylor Hillary, from the piney woods and red dirt hills of Marshall, Texas. Big Mama would often say to me, "Boy, you sure dream big." And that says it all. Because what I've tried to do is to live into those big dreams. And they weren't my dreams alone. Mostly they were dreams of friends like Cindy and Roland, Fernando, Robert Fernandez, and I started calling names again. But there were dreams that I shared with others. So I'm still trying to dream big. Not just for Como and Fort Worth, but for our country and for our world. And I'll sit down with the last thing that I hear my Big Mama telling me. I could see her looking at this plaque and saying, Lifetime Achievement Award. Boy, you know what that really means. That it's time for you to go somewhere and sit your behind down.
Like, seriously, I have to come up here after that? Oh, my God. Our presiding chair just says, how's that working out, Rick? Not too great. I am Rick Baumeister, and I'm honored to have the privilege of introducing my friend Andy Taft tonight, who is the winner of the Multicultural Alliance Annual Award. Andy will be coming up here in a couple minutes, but first I want to tell you a few things about him, some of which are in the program and some are not. Andy grew up in Tampa, Florida, as a middle child in the household. Normally when people think of a middle child, they think, oh, he was probably second of 3 or third of 5. No, Andy was 6th of 11. His father was a college professor, and his mother, of course, stayed home to take care of the kids. At some point during his childhood, the kids were gathered and told by their parents, hey, we're not going to have enough money to send all 11 of you to college. So the kids were told they're on their own for their college degrees, for their undergraduate college degrees. The parents went on to say that for those of you who get through undergraduate work and decide you want to go to grad school, we will pay 100% of that. All 11 graduated from the undergraduate. And there were many postgraduate degrees amongst this group of 11. All of the education was paid for by the kids because, of course, they learned in undergrad how to get through without depending on the parents. Andy happened to tell that story to a small group of people that I was in 10 or 15 years ago, and it had a big impact on me, particularly as it pertained, obviously, to Andy and his siblings. It told me that these folks, this group of 11 kids, all had the grit and determination that it took, and that they were all capable of leading and being led. Another story, I didn't ask permission for this, but it's better to ask for forgiveness. Another story is how Andy met his wife, Dawn. They were at the University of South Florida. Andy was sitting in the front row of a very large auditorium, classroom auditorium. A couple of minutes after class began, this tall, striking, very attractive young lady comes down the stairway, sits down next to Andy. Needless to say, this got Andy's attention. And to show a little spirit here, when the class met the next time, was probably like Monday, Wednesday, or whatever, Andy got there early and got back on that front row. This time, to hedge his bet, he put a stack of books on the seat right next to him. And he's sitting there waiting. Here she comes. As soon as he sees her coming down the stairs, takes the books, put them on the floor or whatever, and the rest, as they say, is history. Two children and two cities later, Andy was recruited as the president of Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. in 2003. Since that time, he's lived the example of someone working to build an inclusive community. And I'm going to tell you about a few examples. For the JFK tribute in Fort Worth, Andy saw the importance of public art with a message centered around the lasting power of ideas. He, along with committee chairs, raised over $2 million and managed the project for generations of people to enjoy. Andy, as some of you know, is a past chair of the International Downtown Association. It's the association for downtown organizations from all over the world that provides tools, intelligence, and strategies for creating healthy and dynamic cities for all. His leadership and ability to help build inclusive communities have literally been felt all over the world. Every 10 years, DFWI, together with the city and Trinity Metro, draft a 10-year strategic plan for downtown. In 2022, over 200 community leaders and members met to provide feedback for that plan. Recognizing that the group was still not large enough, Andy held additional meetings with the Hispanic Chamber, the Fort Worth Chamber, the Metropolitan Black Chamber, and with over 100 young professionals from various YP groups to ensure opportunities for participation for all. I could go on, but you get the idea. Andy's a man who is the epitome of someone who lives the mission of the Multicultural Alliance. We are proud to honor him tonight with the Multicultural Alliance Annual Award. Andy, come on up here, please.
Thank you, Rick. You know, if any of you ever have the opportunity to make a presentation to a group like this on an evening like this, you really should not follow Estrus Tucker. Estrus invoked Lincoln, his mother, cowboys at large, and family. I was going to mention Lincoln, my mother, my family, but Rick, thank you for taking that. I was not going to mention the Cowboys. So I only have 2 paragraphs left. Wait. They're very long, and they're broken into subsets. But thank you very much for this award. I'm really honored to receive it, and thank you for considering me worthy of it. When Rick called to tell me that I would receive the annual award, my first response was, why me? And then he went on to list the reasons why me. And I got to tell you, I was really impressed. Now, as the head of a membership organization, one of the things that I do is I avoid using the words me or I. It's all about us, or about the chair, or about the staff. I avoid me or I. But hey, I'm getting an award tonight. So, I'm going to violate my principles there. So Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. has been an advocate for welcoming everyone to our center city. We champion affordable housing, we upgrade parks, we keep downtown clean and safe, and last year we helped 18 people who were homeless find a home. Our signature events, the Main Street Fort Worth Arts Festival and the Parade of Lights, are free. And they gather everyone in this community, no matter who you are, or how much money you make, or where you live, to come downtown and fill your hearts with art, music, and joyful memories all together. Paragraph 2. My wife, Dawn, and I are longtime supporters of the Fort Worth mental health nonprofit, the Art Station. I've had the honor to serve on the Hispanic Chamber and the Metropolitan Black Chamber boards. Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. ensures that both of those boards have representation on our board of directors. And every quarter, we gather the leaders of those organizations and others, including Visit Fort Worth, to sit down at a breakfast table here at the Fort Worth Club to talk about issues and concerns that we all share as a community. I've participated in retreats and workshops around the future of Butler Place and how its history can be preserved. And under a series of mayors, I've been involved in the city's entree into the homeless care initiatives. I've served on the Day Resource Center Board of Directors, and I helped Otis Thornton craft the city's first homelessness plan. I'm a past chair of the United Way of Northwest Louisiana, a past president of this Rotary Club, and I'm currently a member of the Fort Worth Forum and the Community Foundation's Fair Advisory Committee. I'm the chair of the I'm the vice chair. Where's John? I'm the vice chair of the Fort Worth African American Museum and Cultural Center, and Estrus, thank you for facilitating our retreat. The goal of that new organization is to enlighten, inspire, engage, and challenge everyone toward better understanding and a more just society. That's a fundamentally worthy goal, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I've emceed a number of fundraising events, and I don't know if I'm the only Anglo to co-host the Hispanic Chamber annual gala, but I'm pretty sure I'm one of the most Anglo. Now, the reason that I violated my me and I rule tonight is that if you read my bio, you didn't see anything that would speak to the mission of the Multicultural Alliance. None of what I just talked about is in my bio. And I think that there's a lesson in that for all of us. If what we can do within our jobs or choose to do with our volunteer time brings people closer together, then we absolutely reduce the room that bigotry and oppression require to flourish. So having my name added to the list of past awardees is a it's a remarkable honor. And sharing the spotlight on a night like this with Estrus Tucker is like the water boy standing next to the MVP at the Super Bowl award ceremony. I'm the water boy. Just. For those of you who thought otherwise, thank you. Estrus knew what I was talking about. Estrus, thank you for everything you've done for Fort Worth and our nation. This recognition is humbling, and I hope that my further work, my future work, is worthy of the honor. I'd also like to thank my past DFWI board chairs, members of Downtown Fort Worth, Inc. I've got some staff members here, for giving me the opportunity to participate in the life of Fort Worth. It's a real honor. I'd like to thank my wife for her generous support of my career. And I want to thank all of you for this award and for what you're doing to make the world a far better place. Thank you.
Can we give both of our honorees another hand? The goal of the Multicultural Alliance is to provide opportunities to bring people together with the hope of diminishing prejudice and discrimination. These honorees have dedicated their lives to creating a better community for everyone, so we thank you both. Our next presenters bring a very unique perspective on the Multicultural Alliance. They are able to speak about the MCA in a way that not many of us in this room can. So please welcome Philip Lamson, Carter Lamson, Blake Lamson, and Ryan Lamson.
So when we got here, one of my boys asked, when are we going? I said, we're going last. He said, no, I don't want to do that. That's terrible. I said, no, it'll be fine. Yeah, was I wrong? Good evening. My name is Philip Lamsons, and I want to thank everybody for coming out here to join us tonight. I want to take a few minutes with my boys together. We're all the four of us. We're going to tell you a little bit about the MCA and a little bit about our programming. And I want to start first a little bit and tell you about our relationship to the MCA. Our relationship goes back a long ways. In fact, it's something of a little bit of a family tradition. You got to go all the way back to 1960s when my grandfather, Frank Lamsons, in 1967 was the annual honoree. In the 1980s, my father was on the board. My mother's actually attended some of the Interfaith Dialogues. And if you go all the way back to 1991, I attended Camp Anytown. And back then, it was called the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and we've since changed the name of it, but we now call it Camp Community. And I want to show you something. Oh, let's go back. That's me at camp. As my boys like to point out, it's so old, it's in black and white. But I was just saying, can you guys figure out which one is me in there? I know I kind of blew it there a second ago. I had a little bit more hair back then, was a little bit younger, a little bit thinner, but a little bit less gray in the beard. Actually, I didn't even have a beard back then. But let me help you out right here. That's me. I'm the guy in my Doors Jim Morrison shirt. I'm the guy that was way too cool to wear the same shirt as everybody else on picture day. Yeah, that decision didn't hold up real well over time, did it? Anyway, so like I said, and my brother's here tonight. He didn't quite make it to Camp Community, which is okay, but he was smart enough to marry a girl who did. So in addition to myself, my three boys, Carter, Blake, and Ryan, who are all going to come up here and talk to you tonight, they all attended camp. And depending on who you ask, they either volunteered or were voluntold that they're going to camp. They've all got different opinions on that, or maybe they've got a different opinion than I do, but that doesn't really matter. But rather than have you listen to me come up here and talk about camp when I attended over 30 years ago, I'm going to let you hear from them. 3 people who have attended camp this century. So first up, I'm going to introduce you to my oldest son, Carter. Oh, wait, hang on, I'm sorry. And I'm going to show some pictures too, so you're going to see pictures of all the boys when they were at camp, so you can kind of get a different feel for what it's like over the years.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dad. My name is Carter, and like he said, I'm his oldest son. And I was the first one to figure out that he was lying when he said we were all going to go bald at 20. I want to tell you all a little bit about how we first heard about camp. Almost 10 years ago now, when I was a junior in high school, this was the very first time I had ever heard about the MCA or camp community. Dad pulled me aside one day and said, "Carter, you're going to go to camp this summer." I went, and I would love it if you would go too. I responded with what anyone would say, "What camp?" He said, "Camp community." I said, "Okay, what's camp community?" He said, "I can't tell you that," and then he walked out of the room. Obviously, that's not what I wanted to hear when I'm in high school and my dad talked about shipping me off somewhere for a week and I didn't know where I was going. I tried for a month or so to try and get him to tell me something, but he wouldn't tell me anything. The next thing I know, it's the end of June. I once again got voluntold that I'm going to camp. I'm on a bus full of kids that I didn't know, and we're all headed to camp. What I didn't realize back then was not knowing what to expect at camp was all part of what made it special. One of my first memories of camp was the bus pulled into the parking lot. We were just sitting on the bus, and everybody came running to the bus, banging on the windows, yelling. We didn't know what was going on. Everybody's looking at each other like, these people are crazy. I don't know what's happening. We quickly realized that it was all the counselors and everybody who put the camp on coming to welcome us, hype us up, and show us how excited they were for us to actually be there. A big part of camp is about creating friendships through shared experiences, and that was definitely a shared experience that we all were a little worried was going to happen again the rest of the week. During that week, I met people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. We learned that while we may all seem different on the outside, there was much more that connected us on the inside. After spending 5 days learning with and meeting many new friends and having a wonderful time, fortunately it had to come to an end and we all had to go home. None of us wanted to leave, but we couldn't stay at camp forever. My dad picked me up from the bus, and on the car ride home, he made me promise not to tell my brothers anything about camp like he did for me. I kept that secret for 3 years when Blake got to go, and then another 3 years after that when Ryan had to go. So I had to pretend I didn't know what camp was for 6 years. There we go. Now, I don't want to tell you everything about camp. I'll leave that to the ones who, like Dad said, this past decade got to go. But so let me turn it over to Ryan, and don't believe him when he looks taller than me. We saw him put lifts in his shoes before he came out here.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. I may be the youngest brother, but obviously I'm the tallest, smartest, and best looking. Even though both my brothers went to camp before me, they both refused to tell me anything about it, other than I would enjoy the week making connections with people I probably wouldn't otherwise meet if I didn't go to camp. I'm glad that my brothers didn't tell me anything about camp beforehand, because experiencing everything for the first time without knowing what would happen next was a big part of what made camp special. I was nervous when I first showed up to camp because the only person I knew was my brother Blake, who was a counselor that year. But during one of our first small group meetings, the other campers said they felt nervous too. Knowing that we all felt the same way when we showed up made everyone feel like they weren't alone. It was like we were all in this together. One of my favorite parts of camp was when we worked on the People's Art Collaborative. Basically, we were all sitting down and drawing on a poster we all made to represent camp that year. We were all sitting there talking and laughing while drawing anything that could make us think of camp. It was a simple activity, that made us work together and helped us form stronger connections. These times together are part of what made camp so memorable and gave me and everyone else a sense of family. Being part of the small group meetings is where I had the opportunity to share about myself while learning about others. One day, we all gave presentations about each of the countries or cultures that our families are from. We spent the whole day learning different dances, music, and a lot of other information from different cultures. In the end, we all learned how different cultures may seem from our own, but in reality, we are all very similar. While at camp, I was able to meet some great people and form friendships that I hope will last the rest of my life. The other campers and I learned from each other and grew with each other throughout the week. We started out as strangers, but at the end of the week, we all left as friends. In fact, just the other day, I got a call out of the blue from a friend I had met at camp about getting together soon and hanging out. This was the first time I'd heard from him, and we talked for 3 hours. Being at camp was a great experience for me, and it isn't something I'll soon forget. Next, Blake, everyone's least favorite brother and counselor, is going to tell us a little about his experience as a camper and counselor.
What is up? I'm Blake, as I'm sure you've heard. I didn't know they knew how to read. This is good. This is good. I was a delegate at Camp Community in 2018, a counselor in 2022, and again last year, sadly with Ryan, in 2024. I didn't know how much I needed camp until I went in 2018. It really helped me open my eyes to different perspectives and taught me a lot about empathy that I needed as a 16-year-old. I definitely never planned to be a counselor. In fact, I tried very hard to turn it down a few times before I finally decided to help out in 2022. It had been a few years since I had attended, and I'd never done anything like that before, lead a group of kids through such an important journey. So I was very nervous leading up to camp. In the weeks before camp started, I asked myself, what could I do to help these kids? What am I bringing to the table? I'd hardly experienced any of the things these kids had dealt with on a daily basis. In the days leading up to camp, I thought, what am I getting myself into? At that point, I would have done probably anything to not have to go. But by the end of the first day, honestly, you couldn't force me to leave. I was loving it. I was put in charge of a cabin of boys, but I hate being the authority figure for anybody, so I kind of just did it in my own way. I brought some nail polish and made all the boys paint some of their nails while I was there. They all refused at first, of course, but a day or so later, they all came around and I realized I probably should have brought a little bit more nail polish. It was just a small way of showing like we are all together. This is our deal and we are all in this together as a family. Honestly, that first year as a counselor was a total blur for me. It blew by so fast. I learned so much about other cultures and different ways of thinking. I couldn't stop talking about it for weeks after camp ended. Talked about it so much, in fact, that my girlfriend who's here with us tonight is going to be doing it with me again this summer. Something about seeing a group of strangers go from not knowing each other to crying when the bus is coming to pick them up because they don't want to leave is something I'll never forget. It can only happen somewhere like Camp Community, a camp that accepts and loves everyone no matter who they are or where they came from. When I came back in 2024, I was in charge of my favorite activity, the Power Walk, with Adrian actually. It was an activity where the delegates line up side by side and each person takes a step forward if the prompt given applies to them. Take a step forward if you have been excluded based on how you look. Take a step if you've ever been bullied or anything like that. You get the idea. I always liked this activity. There's no talking, just everyone seeing plain as day that they are not alone and that so many of their new friends have gone through similar experiences. To me, that is what camp is all about, showing young people that even though at first glance we may look different and act differently and come from different places, but in reality we are all one and the same. We are all striving to live in a community that respects and accepts everyone no matter who they are. And that to me is what camp is all about.
Thank you, guys. That was great. I want to tell a quick story about Blake before I get on to everything else. When Blake first went to camp, I picked him up from the bus, and we were driving home, and I was real excited. I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear how well it went and what he had to say, and I want to hear it. So, Blake, how was camp? How was camp? And he just looks at me and says, honestly, kind of tired of sharing. It was a quiet car ride home. It took a day or two before we got it out of him. But no, that was great. So you guys have heard a lot. We've talked a lot about camp community, but the MCA is more than just camp community. Each year we've got a number of different programs, and I want to share with you a little bit about some of them just to kind of give you a broader flair and background on some of these. Our annual Seminary Interfaith Retreat is where seminarians and clergy of many faith traditions are gathered for a week-long retreat. And each participant is given a chance to teach about their faith and to learn about the faiths of others. Our Interfaith Dialogues connect people of different faiths over a 6-week period to gain a deeper understanding of their own faith, as well as learning about the faiths, traditions, and experiences of others. We have table talks where you get a small group of people put together with a moderator for a conversation about personal story and experience telling. The People's Art Collaborative that Ryan mentioned earlier is a dynamic arts program that encourages awareness, reflection, and dialogue about critical issues in our world through artistic expression. So you should all have on your table, I got it, one of these, a little card. So this is going to give you some information about our programming, and it should also help you if you're interested, and we really hope you will sign up. Come join our mission. If our mission meets your mission, we'd love for you to come be a part of it and join some of our programming. You can either fill out the card and leave it on the table, or you can fill it out and mail it in later, whatever works for you. Lastly, here it comes. You know we're all here. As much as we want this to be the focus is about our programming, which is the most important thing that we've got, but we're a small nonprofit. We're a nonprofit with a small board and a small budget. But without a budget, we can't do anything. And without people like you making donations, we can't continue to support this great programming. So if this is important to you, if this means a lot to you, if you are willing to support us, we would ask you would grab the other program, which is the other sheet of paper on the back. There's a QR code. Please fill it out, make a donation to us. It will mean the world to us, and it will help us support this important programming. Thank you so much.
What an extraordinary evening, and I know everybody enjoyed, and we all laughed very heartily. So I thank everybody for being here. I promised Mr. Anfin we would finish early and on time. I made that promise directly to him. So we are going to wrap it up. But before we leave, again, one more time, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate everybody's participation. What I love about this organization is the unity that comes together once a year in this room, and it is my fervent hope that everybody leaves here tonight and carries our spirit of unity and love throughout them every day for another year, and we come back together next year and enjoy one more time everything about MCA. And so I'm sending y'all home tonight in all light and love, peace and joy, and let's continue to make Fort Worth the best city ever. So thank you.